Hello everyone. So welcome back to the second part of this video, second part of the chapter matter. What is matter? Right. So this is the second video in which we are going to move forward with the chapter. In the first video, if you haven't watched the first video, it was about the introduction. It was just an overview of the whole chapter. So let's start without wasting much time, right? Let's begin. Basically, in the last chapter, we covered almost like what is a matter and how matter is there in the world or in the on the earth, right? Let's just quickly revise it and then we'll move forward. So the first question: what is a matter? So a matter is anything that has a mass and takes up space. For example, like this balloon that you can see, or I have like this AirPods, if you can see the AirPods case, this is a matter, right? I have this pen, the stylus pen that you can see, it is also a matter, right? Everything is made up of matter. Everything around us is made up of matter, right? Just a common and simple definition. Matter is anything that has the mass and takes up space, right? Now, the air we breathe, the water we drink, and even the toys we play with are different forms of matter. See, by reading this line, we got to know about that there are forms of matter as well. Like there are more than one form of matter as well, right? Let's quickly understand what is matter and how it works. So generally, we have three forms of matter. We did it in the first video. Three forms of matter that we are going to study about. Although we have five forms, but for now we are studying only three forms. And those are solid, liquid, and gases. Solid, liquid, and gases. Then we have the fourth as plasma. And then the last one is Bose-Einstein condensate. Condensate, right? Now, these two form, we are not going to study it right now. Although, like when you will go for the bachelor's, you will read or study a lot about these, right? Mostly about the plasma. Let's move on, right? And see the states of matter. So first that we are studying is liquid state of matter. Anything or liquids are the thing that takes the shape of whatever container they are in, but they still stay together. That means, you can see the honey, the milk, the glue, the water, simply, they take the shape of container in which you will put it, right? For example, if I have this glass, if I have this glass and if I put something in it, right, some liquid in it, it will take the shape of this glass. Let's say I have another glass, this one. Now you can see, if you can see that both the glass shapes are different. If I put the water from this glass, the first glass to the second glass, the shape of the liquid or water will change, right? So the liquid shape depends on whichever container it is. Okay. Let me now tell you a bit more about liquids. Okay. So let's say the particles also are, first of all, things are, you can make the mechanism like things are made of matter. Matter are made up of particles. Particles further are made up of atoms, then subatomic, then you will study subatoms or subatomic particles. You know, right now we are mostly learning towards these two. Our focus is towards these two, matter and the particle. For example, let's say we have water, okay? This is water. The particles, the red dots that I'm drawing, these are the particles, okay? So the particles of the liquid, they are not very close to each other, but they they are not very close to each other, but they have space between them. And that's why, they're not so, since they are not very very close, so that make it smoother, and that allows it to take the container's shape, to take the container's shape. Let's study about the solids. So generally solids, they have, example of solids you can say, they are rigid, first of all, rigid like the glass, or this stylus pen, or this F4 case. These all are the solids, right? Now, the particles in solids, they are very very close to each other. They are really very close to each other, like this. Can you see? They are very close to each other. That's why they do not have much space between them, and that is why they are not able to flow. They do not able to flow. That's why they can't take the container's shape. The particles of a solid are closely packed. That's why forming a rigid structure. Okay. Then we have gas, the third type, that is gas. In gas, the particles of the matter, like they are at long distance. For example, like this, they are not close at all to each other, right? They are very loosely packed, loosely packed. Okay, let's move on to the changes of state. So, an introduction to the different phase changes of matter and their example. Okay, so the first is, see, we now know that these are the three states of matter: solid, liquids, and gas. You can see that the particles of matter in solid are like really close to each other, but when you compare it with liquid, they are at a bit distance. But if you will see the gases, they are really, they have much more distance, right? You can say that the particles in solid are tightly packed, tightly packed, and the particles in liquid are less tightly packed, less tightly packed, and for the gas, loosely packed, right? Okay. Now, is it possible for a solid to turn into a liquid or a gas? If yes, you know about it. You actually know about it. Yes, but let's just try to, even get a bit more deeper into the concept. So, the change of state, first of all, it's a physical change. It's a physical change, and which we call as reversible change as well. Reversible change as well. Okay. It occurs when matter changes from one state to another. For example, if a solid becomes a liquid, that you call the change of state of that matter, right? And how this happens and what is the procedure? Let's see. First of all, as I told you, change of state is a reversible form. It's a physical change. It does not involve much temperature changes. It is a physical change and occurs when heat is removed or added. Okay, when heat is removed or added, then only these changes can happen, or it occurs. Okay, now the types of changes of state. First of all, from converting a solid into a liquid, the procedure we call as melting. The conversion of solid to liquid, that procedure is called melting. Solid changes into liquid. The heat is added. For example, we have an ice cube. You generally see an ice cube melts if the temperature rises, or if you took out from the fridge the temperature that is the normal temperature in the environment, it is, the heat is, that much sufficient so that the state can change. Heat is added. Okay. Now, freezing. What is freezing? When a liquid changes to solid. That's what you call as freezing. So when a solid changes to liquid, when you call it melting, and when a liquid changes to solid, you call it freezing. In this case, heat is removed. When you put water into your freezer or into your fridge, you know that the temperature or the heat, the excess heat is taken away. It is removed, right? And that's when the change of state occurs. Water turning into ice is an example of freezing, or a block of butter melting is an example of melting, right? Now, some really, really good facts. And that is, gallium is a metal that melts in your hand. It's such a soft metal, gallium. If you put it in your palm, it just melts. So gallium is a soft, silvery white metal. It is a solid at room temperature, but can turn into liquid in your hands. This is because of its low melting point at 85.6 degrees Fahrenheit. That is 29.8 degrees Celsius. Okay. So this is a very unique story of change in state of matter. Change in state of matter. This is not, it's not a synthetic story. It's real. It's true. Change in state of matter. Actually, a metal, gallium, that looks very silvery white metal. It is solid at room temperature, but as soon as you put it on your hand, it just starts melting. And why this happens? Because it is so soft that it cannot take heat. Okay. And if you put on your palms, generally, the body, it absorbs the body temperature, the body heat, and then starts melting quickly. Okay. So that is what, a good case study of solid turning into a liquid is. Let's see the other types of changes. That is evaporation. What is evaporation? So when a liquid changes into gas, that change of state, you call it as evaporation. In this case, heat is added. For example, let's say the socks, the clothes that you put in, the sun to get it dried, the water evaporates due to the excess heat of sun. It evaporates into gases. You can use this, general thing that if you boil a water and keep it boiling for like a long time, the water will, just fade. The water will be, by the time the water will be less in the amount, and the water becomes the gas and evaporated out of it, right? Like given the example, wet clothes drying in the sun, the water gets evaporated. And the process of changing a liquid into gas, changing a liquid into a gas, you call it liquid to gas, is called as evaporation. Now, what is condensation? So, vice versa of it, when gas changes into liquid, that process you call as condensation, right? So, for example, cloud formation. See, cloud, you can say that's a gas, right? And when it is completely filled with the gas, the water, it comes down in the form of rain or water. So that means the state again changed from gas to liquid. That is what condensation is. And heat is removed. Okay. So basically, in in melting and evaporation, evaporation, heat is added, while in freezing and condensation, heat is removed. Condensation, heat is removed. Okay. Now let's see the other types of change of state. So that is sublimation. Okay. For example, generally for, let's say, water. Water can be the best example of all the three, forms of matter, all the three states of matter. For example, you have a block of ice. Okay. If it will change its state, it will first turn into water again. That will be liquid, right? Earlier it was ice, that was solid. If the heat is added, it will change its state and becomes what will become water, that is liquid. And if even more heat is added, it will become gas, right? It will become gas. That is the process we call as evaporation, or the vapor, water vapor. It forms as water vapor. Now, this process, but in this process, when a step just gets skipped, for example, from solid, turning from solid to liquid, when this steps just skips and solid directly changes into gas, that procedure you call as sublimation. That procedure you call as sublimation. And also in this case, heat is added. Okay, for example, dry ice. Dry ice, when you add heat in it, it forms a carbon dioxide, solid carbon dioxide. Actually, dry ice is a solid form of carbon dioxide. And when you put heat in it, it just becomes the vapor, or it just takes the state of gas. Okay. Now the vice versa, when gas changes into a solid directly. For example, the opposite of this procedure, you call it deposition. Deposition. Formation of frost. For example, you see that fog during the time of summer, sorry, during the time of winter, or even let's take the basic example of your fridge, right? You put well, if you will see your fridge, there is many like water vapors is going on, right? And after a few time, it starts depositing at some place and forms a solid-like structure that you call ice. So that process you can call as deposition or formation of frost. In this case, again, heat is removed. So that was the state of changes of matter. So first what we learned melting, right? Change of solid from change of melting of solid to liquid. Then we learned about this melting, when it melting and freezing goes regularly, right? So when water becomes solid or ice, two processes are involved. So when ice becomes water, the process is called melting. And when the water becomes ice, it's called freezing, right? Then the next thing that is involved, when the water becomes gas, again two steps are involved. We call it evaporation. Evaporation. And when when gas turns back to water, the process we call as condensation, right? Condensation. Again, when gas directly forms solid or ice, you can say, the process is called gas, and this is uh, yeah, again, this is the when the solid directly changes into gas, you call it sublimation, and when the gas directly changes into solid, you call it as deposition. Okay, what's the state again? It occurs when matter changes from one state to another. The types of changes that we have learned in this video is that freezing, melting, evaporation, condensation, sublimation, and deposition. So this was it for today's video. In this video, we understood what is the change in the state of matter and how many changes are there. What happens when it goes from solid to liquid? What do we call it when it goes from liquid to gas? We learned about almost all the changes that occurs in a matter or in a state of matter, right? So hope you liked the video, guys, and if you did, then please hit the like button, hit like, subscribe to my channel for more such videos, and share it with all your friends. Also, like this is the second part of the chapter, so obviously we are going to have more parts of this chapter, right? And not for only science, we do math, science, English, logical reasoning. We almost cover each and everything. So your one-stop solution. And if you do like it, please follow us and write down all your doubts or whatever your suggestions are in the comment section. I'll surely try to work on that. Thank you so much, guys. Bye bye.